Hey everybody, Adam Savage in my happy place. I am at Prop Store down in Los Angeles. Their big summer auction is just about to happen. And as you can see here, there's a couple of Marvel pieces in it. Chuck, tell me what we've got here.
Well, let's start with the one closest to you. So
Yeah.
this obviously is Mjolnir.
Yep.
I always couldn't pronounce that correctly, but it's been a little bit of practice. But Mjolnir, Thor's hammer from Thor 2.
Oh, Dark World.
Dark World.
Okay.
And in Dark World, they actually changed the design. And we've had in the past some Thor 1 hammers, but this is the first Thor 2 hammer that we've been handling.
And I guess the design has stayed this way because this is what I know as Thor's hammer.
Pretty
now.
much. I think if you look at the design, the big thing that they added was the pommel at the bottom.
Right.
Before, it just you had the handle coming straight out of the handle there.
Okay.
But then they added this, which was a nice design piece because they added nice metalwork and designs to the bottom of it, but the top half pretty much stayed the same.
I have seen some Thor hammers in your auctions in the past. We've seen them here in the room, and I think we've seen a couple of stunt ones.
Yes.
So they're quite crunchy up close.
Well, yes.
This one,
they've aged a little bit over
Yes.
time because they were softer foam.
but
Yes.
this one is in really, really beautiful condition.
Yes, this was kind of a hero build, and we'll get more into some of the imperfections that we found in this. But the other ones weighed probably about a pound.
Right.
And as you hold this, you'll find this one weighs a little bit more than
Oh,
a pound.
can I?
Please, please.
Oh, I haven't picked it up yet. Oh.
So that it actually gets your muscle pumping a little bit.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so-
Can you tell my bicep looks just like Chris Hemsworth?
But my understanding is that this is one that they would use most of the time because this actually feels like it would actually engage
Right.
Chris Hemsworth muscles. Obviously, they would use the lighter ones, and I believe they had two versions of the stunt, which was a really sort of light foam, and then they would have a harder plastic version of it. But those were used obviously when they're interacting with actors. But this one's a good sort of carry around version of it.
It's really beautiful. Do you know about its construction, how it's built?
I don't. I think this is obviously not metal.
Yeah.
This is actually coated and to look like metal on that. It is hollow.
Yeah,
You can knock on that.
the weight is perfect because
Yes.
it's not heavy, but it has inertia.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, and it's got the leatherette. I don't
Yep.
believe it's actual leather there, but leatherette wrapping it. And then, unlike the stunts, these are actually raised. And they actually did change the design, I think, even on the handle
Yeah.
between Thor 1 and Thor 2. And I would imagine, I believe there was also a metal version. I had read that Russell Bobbitt had made a true metal version that weighed about 50 pounds for true close-ups. Now, I've never seen one of those. I've never handled one of those. And probably only Chris Hemsworth.
Maybe
was
that
worthy,
was for the scene when Cap actually moves it a tiny bit.
Yeah, maybe. And I do know that the ones where they all try to do it, those are actually they're actually screwed down,
Of
so
course,
the actors could not move those. But this one weighs probably about 5 pounds, give or take.
Yeah.
But has that real weight to it, which I love, and it does weight the hammer so that you're actually trying to keep it up. But
It's great. What you said there were some imperfections that you guys noticed.
yeah, there's some imperfections in the way this particular one was built. And I actually talked to the folks at Legacy. As we, very frankly, we're a little bit skeptical because there have been other Thor hammers on the market.
Like there's a bunch of them.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I think when Prop Store handles one, we had to be very careful. So we wanted to check with some experts out in the field. Some good tells on this one is, one, it does look like, if you look up close, and it's hard to get the shot of it,
Yeah.
but it looks like it was repaired at one point in time where this,
Yep.
where it met the, but the hammerhead.
Yeah.
There's also some wear to the leather up here, which means that somebody was probably carrying it like
Right.
this for a prolonged period of time.
So
but
I just
on-
want to
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, what I noticed is there's a seam here.
Yeah.
Which on a true hero, you would not necessarily see a seam. And I think on the other ones that I've seen, you don't necessarily see this. So I talked to some folks over at Legacy about why that might be. And they said, very frankly, in some cases, when they're working, especially on a Marvel film, they're asked to sort of pump one out very quickly to
Right.
get it on set. It may not be used for the extreme close-ups, but it's, it looks good. It's good enough for what
Right.
they have to shoot a little bit more long distance. And so they may not have filled in the seams that they normally would do on
in
that.
the interest of getting this out to set
Exactly.
ASAP.
And same thing with the paint job. They may not have distressed it as much as some because, again, it's got a good look to it, but they may, for some of the up close ones, they may have added a little bit more paint to the head of it.
to make it pop
But
more.
overall, they confirmed, they said, yeah, but it does look like it is supposed to look like, which was a good sign.
So when you say you've got to be careful, you're implying that maybe the market of the sum total of all the Thor hammers out there, not all of them came from production.
Well, that's a theory, and I think
Sure.
we've always wondered as to where they came from. And I think part of the concern, especially when we authenticate props, is did people make extra ones after the fact?
Out of the same molds.
Out of the same
that also
molds or some of
matters.
those things, and we have to be very careful of doing that. We want to make sure that the hammers that we handle came out before the movies. And I know personally, I saw this particular hammer before the movie actually hit the theaters, which is a good sign that it was before all the copies came out, because the movie hadn't even been out.
And that makes you much more highly confident that this is exactly what it says it is.
Yes, for us, again, knowing the direct prominence of this particular hammer, we could look at that. But we did examine it as far as the construction. And again, all of them slightly differ. We compared it to also ones that were over at the Marvel exhibits that are traveling the world at this moment, where they also have Thor hammers on display. And it checked out from that perspective.
It's so pretty. I love the fact that you can tell that someone's hit stuff with it. I also, one of the little details that I find really delightful is the complexity of the leather strap down here. On the inside, I've never seen this detail, little X's of leather.
Yep, and you'll see different, they were also explaining to me that the way that they even dye this, sometimes it's not as dark. This is a good, solid, dark version of this. In some cases, it might be a little bit lighter, and those might be sort of lesser versions that they would keep on set, but they may not ultimately use on that. So it was a good sign that this one actually had the dark leather strap to it.
I find myself I'm sure, Chris Hemsworth and each of those actors builds a level of comfort and familiarity with the pieces, so that, like, I'm just picturing him on set being like, "Oh, hello, old friend."
Well, I'm sure he has many old friends.
Sure.
Yeah. I heard he actually has some in his bathroom. I believe that each of his bathrooms in his house. This is a rumor I had heard that he keeps a Thor hammer. So
I love that.
if you're a guest at his house, if you're out there and you've been to Chris Hemsworth's house, let us know if you've seen a hammer in it.
You could have yourself a wee and also find out if you're worthy. All right, speaking of finding out if you're worthy, the other piece we have here
The other person that held Captain
is
America's
the other
hammer.
person that held. I have never seen one of these up close as a production-made cap shield.
Yeah, and we've handled a few of these at the time. Obviously, they started this design. Yeah, actually, Cap starts with a different design shield. And it's interesting thinking back about why they changed it, not only for the movies but in the comics. Captain America, when he was created back in 1941 by Marvel, there were other patriotic heroes out there, and there was one called the Shield that was done by MLJ. And if you look at the design of that, like his costume, it looks almost exactly like Captain America's very first shield. So by issue 2 of Captain America, they had changed it to a circular shield, which I thought was interesting. I think it was partly to avoid copyright issues, but it also allowed him to throw it. And I think the idea that he could almost use this like a boomerang and get it back was something that was also appealing in the comics. It added to the character and what the character could do.
Well, and I just speaking of throwing the shield, as I used to play Ultimate Frisbee with friends of mine every summer. And one year we were playing Ultimate Frisbee, and we got like 10 minutes into the game when a dog ran up, grabbed our Frisbee, snapped it in half, and ran away. And so we had no Frisbee, but there was a garbage can there. And we ended up using this metal garbage can lid because it turned out we were all young and strong. We could throw that thing for like 100 feet. And so we played Ultimate Frisbee with the garbage can lid. So I'm pretty confident that a vibranium cap shield would fly really nicely.
Yes. Well, you may want to pick this one up. This, All
right.
Does it meet
your... Before I pick it up, I actually also want to talk to the paint job.
Sure.
Because I love seeing these paint jobs up close. I have several replica shields, which are made in aluminum and then with like a clear paint over them. And that looks kind of like this in a photograph, but up close I can see there's a ton of pearlescent, both in the red and the blue, and maybe even a little bit in the silver.
Yeah.
It's very subtle, but that circular pattern that shows up here, it's just, there's a refinement to this paint job that's not obvious.
It is, and I think when you see one of these up close, and I can see it from my angle as well, it allows it to shine on screen, which it is. And this, well, I'll let you touch it. Is it metal or is it not?
It feels like resin. Fiberglass.
Why don't you actually try to squish it a little bit?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
Look at that. It's bendable.
It's rubber. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
I was surprised as well. It's like a shield that looks as good as this is actually rubber. And my understanding is that they built these for stunt sequences. I don't know if it's a true the stunt. There may be other versions of the stunt, but this is a very heavy duty stunt version of this that allows them some flexibility. So if they do roll, but of course, when they're filming, they also have to be careful that the shield doesn't bend on screen. So they, you know, for this, when they use this particular shield, they had to make sure that nothing was the illusion of what this was not given away.
Wow. Yeah. I'm really blown away that it is urethane rubber.
But they did it as to the pearlescence. Yes, this was all painted. Oh. But you can see from the wear and tear, and part of the reason this one probably came out of circulation is, you know, some of the paint does come off of it because it's rubber.
And that's not a paint job you can fix
it's not an easy fix.
And
yeah,
redoing.
It's kind of like, you know, if you scrape your car, you either go back for the full paint job or you do some touch-up work. And this, you're going to notice the touch-up work on these.
Wow. I'm just so blown away by how good it looks.
Yeah.
Also, I hadn't thought that these weren't centered, and they're not. This one interrupts the circle, and this one doesn't. They're it's.
Hadn't noticed that as well, but yeah, it's interesting too that obviously the straps, this one's a little bit wider to allow
meant
your
to
forearm to
accommodate
go in
his
there.
giant forearm.
Yep. And then that one's so that you can grip.
It's a weird thing to grab on over here.
But then they would have different versions where he would wear it as sort of over his back. Dunk. That's going to have a little longer straps to this. So they have different versions of these, and then they have other ones that are just mounted, and they don't. I've seen some that don't have the leather straps at all. But the fact that you've got some, or it's leatherette, I believe. But the fact that you've got the leather work alongside this is a fully complete version of what you want. But you know, you're not going to strain, similar to the Thor's hammer, you're not going to strain necessarily with this particular version to carry it all the time. So this is something that the actor could use throughout the day pretty comfortably.
Dude, that is so beautiful. Amazing. Oh man, Chuck, thank you so much for letting me touch these beautiful things.
A little bit of Marvel history in your hands.
It's just, all right, so the auction's this August, right?
It is August 15th through 18th. Propstore.com is where you find the catalog. You know, there's over 1,900 items in this auction, so a lot of cool stuff.
Are you worthy? Thank you guys so much for watching that video. We have some brand new merch available at the store. A dog's age ago, I mean like 2018, 2019, this wonderful graphic designer named Brian Otterer reached out to us and sent us some stickers. He has a design firm called Dash 3 Dots, and we loved his stickers so much we wanted to sell them on the merch store. Well, he updated them with our new logo, and we've got Adam in the Martian spacesuit sticker. We've got Adam in the shuttle suit sticker. We've got Adam in the Apollo suit sticker. And my personal favorite, Adam in the alien spacesuit sticker. Get yours now, tested-store.com. Hey!